So in keeping with the theme that everything is sexist and we must point all of it out, thank you Anita for that delightful quote that will never truly age, I thought perhaps today we'd address the impending release of Apple's new phone, which has been accompanied with, are Apple's new iPhones sexist? Feminist campaigners stand firm for making devices that are, quotes, too big for women to hold. The new iPhone XS has a screen range from 5.8 inches to 6.5 inches. And it had me thinking, how have phones evolved over the years? And so to do this, I went back to the very first contract phone I had. I've had phones before, but they were not smartphones. They were like the K750i and the W580, and then Nokia's back through the years. But my first smartphone contract was a HTC Wildfire in 2012, which had a touchscreen size of 3.2 inches. When I got it, I didn't really use it much. I think it was in the final year I started to live on it. Because I was job hunting, I was very active. In 2014, when I upgraded, I went to the Sony Xperia T, which had a 4.55-inch screen, and I lived on that. It was a quality phone. When I upgraded past that, I went to a Sony Xperia XZ, which had a 5.2-inch touchscreen, to the point where I'm using that now and am about to upgrade. I don't know what to go with, by the way, but having used Sony for most of my life, I would probably go with them if they had a more current phone. I'm still not sure. But I can upgrade now. And when I look at my phone I realise, yeah, it is quite big, but the purpose of a phone has changed. For example, back when they were first released smartphones, people would still use a tablet, but some families can't afford two devices, so screens and the capability of a phone having improved as far as it has rendered tablets somewhat redundant. I have a tablet I got for free with my internet provider. I have a Samsung Galaxy Tab 2 and it has an 8-inch touchscreen, I think. It's a little bigger than my phone, obviously, and it serves its purpose quite well. The only times I really use it are when I'm out and about, on a train, or if I'm laying in bed watching YouTube videos. It isn't a device I would consider carrying around with me on a day-to-day basis, sending messages while walking down the street, like a lot of people I see do on a daily basis, most of whom are female. This is not me now trying to be sexist. In my town, the majority of those I see walking without looking where they're going while using both hands to send messages on their phones are women, whereas most of those I see looking where they're going and only stopping to then look at their phone are men. I'm not sure why that is, but maybe men just realise they can't multitask, or perhaps they're not entirely comfortable walking into someone. In any case, as we have seen over the years based on the phones I had, phone sizes have increased, but so, if you saw the specifications, has the capability of the device, which, let's face it, over the years has rendered the use of laptops and computers redundant because you can do virtually everything you need to do, for example, shopping, banking, social media, therefore redundant. Hell, if you're into it, you can have your own Fitbit and food diary on there. And there are many apps for gaming as well. Maybe it's not up to scratch with console or PC, but not many people walk down the road with a PS4 strapped to their waist, along with a screen that is suitable for it. Now, when the subject of sexism comes up with regards to phone size, I assume this is done in the context of, well, girls have to use their phone with one hand, because in the other hand they have another phone. Honestly, I don't get it. But I'm sure this feminist group has legitimate reasons for saying this. So let's have a look at the article and try and understand it. So Apple has been criticised for designing iPhones too big for women's hands, which have changed drastically over the years, and something I had forgotten. For the longest time, Samsung made the biggest phones with the Note. They made the biggest phones. They were pioneers with LCD screens, to the point where Apple get their LCD screens from Samsung. They have done this for years. I know this because I used to repair phones for a living, and I knew this. So it astonishes me that Apple didn't try to keep up with Samsung on that until 2012, when they finally started to make inroads into increasing the size of their phone. Granted, they've had a few misses as far as designs go. Apple haven't exactly had it easy, whereas Samsung seem to have maintained a certain standard. But now, in the ultimate step forward in the pissing contest between Apple and Samsung, Apple have managed to go 0.1 inch larger than the most recent Samsung Note, which can be considered good or bad depending on how you look at it. Much like Samsung, Apple are not just providing one type of the new phone, they're providing a smaller version or a larger version. Therefore, the customer can choose a version that is more suited to them. They can either go with a 5.8-inch screen, which is marginally bigger than my current XZ, or a 6.5-inch screen and essentially have something that is only 0.5 of an inch smaller than the smallest Samsung Galaxy tablet. As far as I'm concerned, 5.8 at most seems reasonable. Now, if the feminist position and argument is based on the 5.8-inch screen, then we certainly have to have a discussion about whether or not 5.8 inches is too big for a woman's hand, or whether women have learned to adapt to use both hands, and whether or not that in and of itself is somehow sexist, when considering what Apple are trying to accomplish with their phones. It's understandable the phone will increase in size to accommodate for better tech, and of course, smoother running software. While I am not a fan of Apple, I respect what they have accomplished over the many years they have been operating, and I don't have to like their products to respect them, just to be clear here. After announcing the launch of its new range on Wednesday, 4 other iPhone models were removed from Apple's website. It is not known whether Apple will release another small model to replace the SE. Critics quickly pointed out the larger models would be more difficult for women to use because the average female hand is an inch narrower than the average man's, which, to be honest, is a somewhat valid point to make, with the target audience being slightly more women than men as far as who owns an iPhone. It's understandable the critics have a point. Claiming it is sexism, though, is not a valid point. It is simply trying to raise the bar, as they have always done when fighting Samsung, and Huawei if you want to include them as well, in trying to put forward the best product available. And there have been many studies done over the years, which come from sites like Civic Sites, which have created charts showing the characteristics of iPhone and Android people, since they are the 2 main operating systems, not Microsoft, obviously, where you have has graduate degree, iPhone wins that. Only has iSchool education, which is also iPhone. Household income over 125 grand. Professional managerial job. Am addicted to digital devices. Computer technical job though, which is the one that I want to focus on, is mostly Android. And that's because, by and large, Android is a more techie based device. It gets the tech men, tech women moist. Whereas iPhone is renowned for its simplicity, which is what appeals to a lot of people, regardless of their academic background. Now, excluding the lady in this article that complains about RSI, Jess Phillips, the Labour MP for Birmingham Yardley, said companies tended to design products with men, not women, in mind. She told the Daily Telegraph, "In so much design and technology development, the default standard is always that which suits a man. Companies have got to get better at recognising that their idea of normal should account for all their customers." Others said the lack of women in senior positions at Apple could lead to such biases. It's nice that when you've read into how the phone has evolved over the years, you have decided that your way of dealing with it is to simply call sexism and look for any excuse to call sexism. It is not sexist to improve a product, and I'm sure given time, they will change their product accordingly. A lot of time has been spent researching their product to maximize their profits, which Apple are very good at doing, to the point where their products, everyone knows. Everyone has an Apple product somewhere, even in a box. Hell, I still have a Shuffle from 2007, or was it 2008? It's on its last legs. The fact is, Apple is a household name. They know how to appeal to the biggest market, and it is quite possible in this competition to compete with Android that they are trying to encourage more techie-based people to go to them, because they make the bigger product, which won't get them at all. Or maybe they're making a bigger product because they can. And let's not forget here, even though the 5.8-inch XS is 0.3 inches bigger than my XZ, even I think 5.5 is too big for anyone, as far as phones go anyway. So I'm sure even a 5.5-inch screen like mine would cause RSI with a number of customers who complain of it and then moan about sexism. And to finish up, until companies like Apple have women represented equally at senior levels, as in all areas of business, politics and public sector, women's needs are an afterthought. Sam Smethers of women's rights organisation The Fawcett Society has said, If we started in a different place with things designed by women for women, we would improve women's lives and we would all benefit. Which is a load of crap. Look at feminist beer, feminist porn. Anything feminist based that's for women, targeted for women, has tanked. Please don't include Wonder Woman, because that was never a feminist thing to begin with. If you're going to start trying to appeal to gender and say more representation is the reason why this technology has advanced and gotten to the point where now people can't use it in one hand, might I suggest you use BlackBerry, because it turns out they still exist and they still make those crappy little keyboards that girly-handed people like Barack Obama could use easily. Now before I finish up, I have an announcement. I am putting together a video for BitChute, another one of my little short exclusives for that site, focusing on a particular topic that happened to me. When it is completed, I will link it in the description and the comments below. Also, if Prime Minister's Questions is on today, which I think it is, if it is, I will be doing a stream at 9:30 PM GMT on the Cthulhukin and Friends show. I will also link that in the description below. So I hope everyone has a lovely Wednesday, and thank you all for listening.
Oh, goddowns.
In your arse.
Imagine my shock.